Episode of the Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Neighborhood Domains. Every business needs a domain name, including yours. Visit neighborhooddomains.com and use offer code MARKETING to get 10% off hosting and domain registration.
On this episode, logos identified by font, Maid promotes imperfection, new in-app measurement tools, and Taco Bell rules social media.
Creativity sells. Applying the right creative at the right time is the recipe for great marketing. The Marketing Podcast looks at marketing news and finds the secret ingredients that make great marketing.
Hi, welcome to the Marketing Podcast. I'm Brendan Quigley.
And I'm Heather Watson. How you doing today, Brendan?
Episode 32.
You are just all about the...
I started to count. Like, we got over 25, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is still going.
It matters.
Yeah.
This is still going.
Yeah.
And we thank you for that, listeners.
We're having a blast.
We are having fun. Hope you are too. We have a fun, random show today. There's no necessary theme. We try and sometimes put a theme around it, but not this time. We're just going to wing it. We can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have an important question for you today, Brendan. Let's just jump in. Do you call it font?
Font. Yeah, font.
Or typeface?
It's fonts.
It's a typeface.
It's font.
Typeface.
Semantics.
So typeface speaks to back in the day, for all of you youngins, when we didn't have fonts. It's like just butchers the English language, too. It doesn't even sound romantic. We used to have typefaces, you know, when people did letterpress and had like letters out of a drawer and would painstakingly line up letters on a printer.
Yeah, that's a typeface.
On a Gutenberg
That's
press.
a typeface.
That is a typeface.
Yeah.
We had typewriters which only had one font. It was Times New Roman.
Oh, man. Did you have different typewriters for different fonts?
Not a chance. No, not a chance. Sometimes you would be able to do red if you had red ink ribbon in your typewriter.
Fancy.
But oftentimes, because the shift red key was often broken in many typewriters, you'd get like a hybrid red-black because it was literally a ribbon divided in half, and the top half was black and the bottom half was red, and it would shift it up
a tiny bit,
and sometimes it wouldn't shift it up enough.
Welcome to the history lesson on the Marketing Podcast.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. How old is she? Yes.
This is a cool article, though.
This is
font
really
article.
neat. So, this came out of Adweek, and a designer, and we need to give this person credit, Emmanuel Abret.
I wouldn't have been able to pronounce that.
He's
Good
an
job.
Italian graphic designer. So he has gone in and taken our really well-known logos, and instead of putting in the business name of that brand, he has put in the font typeface name of that brand, or of that the name of that typeface.
So take a look at the link when we put the link out. But like, I totally double tagged.
Yeah.
Because you're so familiar with that brand. So like the one that's here is Spotify. So I guess the font they use is Gotham.
That's right.
And so it's the Spotify logo, but Gotham instead of Spotify is written there. But I totally was like, oh, that's Spotify. Wait a second.
And
Gotham.
Instagram, you know, we know it. It's that kind of ombre, pink down to orange kind of background with the little camera, Polaroid camera thingy. And then it's like handwritten Instagram, like a really cool font. But instead of the word Instagram, the font is called Billabong. So it says Billabong. And there's a few. There's Nike, which is using Futura font. Starbucks, which is a Freight Sans black. Pico, which is Twitter. Adobe has Myriad. Airbnb is LL Brown. Adidas.
Like, they look so much like their logo.
They do.
That it just screams how important font is.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, right? And this is what it really comes down to. Every font has an emotion. Every font has a feeling, a vibe. It evokes something, energy. And then whether or not you're using that font as a bold or italic or all caps or mixed case, all plays into that brand. And This also speaks to, and you were touching on this earlier, Brendan, is how ingrained these brands are in our psyche. They've done an excellent job. So Spotify is the example because it's the lead one on the story. I look at that logo and I know exactly what it is. I don't have to think about it, but it doesn't even have the word Spotify on it, but I'm instantly thinking about Spotify.
Yeah.
Right. And similarly,
background, green type. Yeah.
Yeah. But it says Gotham. Well, what the heck is Gotham? Well, Gotham's a font. So it's really cool. And, the takeaway on this is obviously he's using iconic brands that have that instant recognizability.
Right. Yeah.
But your brand, maybe you don't aspire to be an icon, but you do need to have some sort of emotion and consistency with how you're conveying the message of your brand within that logo. So when you're working with somebody on a logo, to pay attention to font choice and the emotions that it evokes.
It shouldn't be Arial.
It shouldn't be Arial.
Or Times New Roman.
And I think that's like a lazy, often a lazy approach to the design. Like somebody's just throwing something together and, we have to stick a word in here, your tagline or your company name, and then they just take the first one off the list or what they're most recognized to use, right?
Yeah.
And you can create your own fonts, and and you can buy fonts. I think people think that they shouldn't have to pay for them, but if you pay for them, then you're probably going to get one that's not overused. So there's all kinds of...
And I'll jump in and be nerdy. You can use custom fonts online. Like that is possible. You just have to host the font. And I've actually found WordPress plugins that are free that will let you host like a purchased font. So if your web developer says that can't be done, but it can.
It can
it's
be
just
done.
An extra step.
And should be done, right, to reinforce your brand if that's the font that you've bought into.
With that said, there's Google Fonts, which is a large repository of really good fonts that are like readily and easily accessible, and they're free.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, open source. They work with many platforms. You can bring them in.
Yeah.
So look at that. Pay attention to it, and we'll share this link, of course, in the show notes. It's there and on the marketingpodcast.ca, and you can take a look and see for yourself the work that this particular designer has done.
Maybe I'll do it for our logo.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Change the Acorn 30 to whatever the font is.
Yeah. I hope it's not Arial.
It's going to be Arial now.
Oh, goodness. No, I'm certain it's not. Yeah. Shoemaker's kids.
Slapping our own hands.
So the next article, completely shifting gears, is about Minute Maid. This came out of Business Wire. So Minute Maid has recently launched a campaign that is in the U.S. that is targeted to families to embrace their perfectly imperfect family moments and show how, even though it's not always Instagram ready, quote, this is good. So there's some interesting statistics that have come out of this piece based on research that they have done or had access to. And interesting to me is like almost heartbreaking, like sad research. Some of the stats are 94% of parents who post pictures admit to posing or staging at least one. And I'm like, okay, I've probably staged a photo, trying to get my cat positioned in a certain way. Actually, I don't even have a cat, but, something to make it look cute, right? So one is fine. 1/3 parents admit to staging all of them. 1/3 of people who are staging photos.
Not actually surprised.
I'm not surprised. I'm saddened by it, though.
I just don't have the patience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'll take more than one picture to, like, pick the best one, but that's where it ends.
Yeah. 20% admit to not posting photos because of something embarrassing in the background. And embarrassing doesn't necessarily mean, like, what we would actually think of things are embarrassing. It's like, oh, my house is messy. Right? Because everybody has a perfectly perfect house, don't we?
I'll jump in here and say I do have an app on my phone to blur my monitor.
Right. We do that for confidentiality for the work that we do.
Exactly. Like I cringe a little bit when people take pictures of their workspace and it's like, I can see everything on your screen and it's client so-and-so.
Filing video, how-to videos, and you're seeing all their client data and metrics. It's scary. So that kind of stuff makes sense. But this is just the average user who's posting
Just
stuff,
embarrassed.
right? But we're not talking about the stats per se, but the impact that it's had on this Minute Maid campaign, which is basically saying, it's okay. No one's a perfect family. So they're urging families to share realistic pictures of their everyday lives instead of those staged Instagram-ready snapshots. And it's just saying, just be part of the life, capture the memories. It's the imperfections that make memories, right? I look at, the iconic wedding album and all of those fantastic photos that we all pay our photographers to take. But some of my most memorable photos or memorable moments from my wedding aren't the ones where we're doing the staged photos. It's the pictures that friends sent me afterwards.
Okay, so and I'll jump in here with a personal story. My wife made an album for her family called The Book of Shame, where all those pictures because we used to have physical pictures that never made it into the photo album, all those pictures made it into the Book of Shame, and she gave it to them at Christmas with a whole bunch of blank pages to add to it.
Right.
And you go through it, and these are some of the worst, most embarrassing family pictures that you could ever find.
Amazing.
Buried in and she's now put them in an album and required that the book is always out when, that's the rule of the Book of Shame, that it's out when guests show up.
Right.
It's hilarious, and it also gives purpose. Like you're saying, some of those candid shots, the memories are there. It gives purpose.
Yeah, it's much
amazing.
more storytelling, right?
It's so much more fun to go through that book than the other family albums.
Yeah, and you think, well, why is Minute Maid doing this? Why are they trying to get us to embrace, the real imperfections of life? And really, they're trying to engage customers to add that human element, right? So it's coming at a time when authenticity in marketing
Transparency
is a huge topic. We're all being so cynical over business practices and social media privacy. So coming out, trying to be open and honest and transparent is just showing that the brand stands for real, wholesome products used by real people, right? We are real people. Embrace that instead of staging that. So
I'm going to start staging embarrassing pictures.
Oh my, please don't.
Hashtag this is good.
Yeah, no, please don't. You do it, and don't. All handful of our listeners don't listen to that. That'll be the next horrible campaign.
Yeah.
So that piece came out of Business Wire, and we'll link to that in the show notes as well. The next piece that we're going to be talking about is IAB Tech Lab.
What is IAB?
IAB is an acronym. I can never remember what they stand for. Oh,
and I don't know. No, I don't know
Yeah,
what they
I
stand
thought
for
you
either,
were
but I
gonna
know
add
what they
something.
do.
Yeah, I know what they do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just can never remember what it's like International AB something or other.
International AB.
Yeah,
You heard it here first.
That's official. IAB, it's a nonprofit consortium that sets standards for digital media. So they came out with the IAB standards for advertising online, the standard boxes, right? The sizes for the boxes, so that, back in the day when the internet was still the wild, wild west and sizes and where they were located were just a mess everywhere, IAB kind of wrangled everybody in and got them into those standards.
And then you could start to compare, right?
Yeah, and start doing metrics and all that kind of stuff. It made it easier for creating artwork. There's still a myriad of different sizes that you're creating artwork for, depending on the format that you want to have your ad showing. But at least gives, if I want a header ad, I know
IAB header is
the same size. Doesn't matter whose
728 by
website,
90,
something like that.
Yeah.
So they've created those standards. So now they've partnered with ComScore, which is a media tracking company, and it's a for-profit company. But ComScore can use in-app measurement through verifying the SDK, which is the software development kit that has been implemented. So what IAB has done, there's a lot of acronyms here, and I'm sorry, this is their stuff, not mine. What IAB has done is release their Open Measurement Software Development Kit, or the SDK, so that third parties can track and verify viewability of in-app ads, mobile app ads, without using multiple measurement provider SDKs. So if anybody has looked to take mobile ads out in games and any kind of app, those tracking measurements are different from app to app, from platform to platform. IAB has now created a code that allows somebody who's buying those ads to have consistent metrics. What is a view? What is a click? What is an engagement? And get those standardized metrics that you can make as a marketer, as somebody who's buying advertising in these platforms. You can make more educated decisions because you're now comparing apples to apples, not apples to Googles. Oh my gosh, that was funny. You heard it here first. It's apples to Googles.
And with that said, like ComScore, Double Verify, Google, like if you know anything about the platforms that do this kind of thing, Integral Ad Science, Oracle's, Moat, and Pandora, like these are some of the founding members of this IAB SDK.
Yeah.
So the idea is to try to create the standard that will work across the board.
Across those platforms.
So that just like the ad sizes, you can now start to compare, what does a view mean? Is it a view? Is it a load? Like maybe it was below the fold on the phone, but it was still counted as a view, but not. Like they're standardizing this so you can start to measure and verify your metrics.
And it matters because, and we have talked about this before, mobile advertising spending is on the rise. And I would almost say that IAB is a little behind in actually getting this standardization out. In-app spending will be $20 billion this year alone, according to Statista.com, having reading troubles. So knowing that you're getting standardized information that's determining whether or not you are getting a good return on your investment is going to be critical because we're spending more and more money in this platform, in this environment. So we need to be able to track it and have some sort of accountability metrics in place. So good on IAB. Mm-hmm. Yeah, IAB, SDK, Statistica, Apple's things.
I would continue with this a little bit and say it's a really good idea if you're not advertising on any mobile platforms to consider it. Don't look at the $20 billion number and think, oh my goodness, that's beyond me, or that's beyond my business, or we're not ready for that, or et cetera, et cetera. That just means that there's a lot of people doing it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And it should tell you that it does work and that it should be something you consider.
Yeah. And I mean, a couple weeks ago, we talked about Facebook advertising is kind of on the downturn in light of all the Cambridge Analytica stuff that's going on. Now may start seeing a change in that because new privacy policies are coming out and people are starting to restore faith. People are forgetful. They know, but they don't really care anymore. But generally speaking, it's if you're not advertising in Facebook because whatever reason you feel you're not getting the response, the engagement, people are going to be shifting. You might want to take that $100 a week budget that you're putting on Facebook and put it into a mobile app.
Yep.
Right. And advertising in that platform in a game of Word with Friends or whatever that may be. So yeah. Taco Bell.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Which is
the Spanish everybody knows.
I don't even know, but I do. So this is an article that came out of ShareIQ, which is a metrics company. Basically, Taco Bell and Domino's has the best engagement metrics among the quick serving restaurants, or QSRs.
On Facebook? Is that specific?
On Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram. Right. And I want to point out a trend. We've talked about Instagram now almost every article so far. So just flags going up there. Instagram's the new Wild West.
Yeah, it's true. So they are topping, Taco Bell and Domino's are topping some of the other big ones, including Domino's, which we talk about a lot. Mm-hmm. Wendy's, which we talk about a whole lot more.
Yep.
And Subway, but nobody talks about them.
Who talks about Subway?
Yeah.
Subway, do you talk about Subway? Get back to me on that.
Yeah. So Taco Bell and Domino's has the best engagement around. They did a study on it. They're the leading fast food brand on Facebook with more than, we'll just call it close to 500,000 likes during the first quarter of 2018. 29 times of what Wendy's and Domino's have.
All right, can I say my comparison now?
Sure.
Because I really feel like Taco Bell is some guy with a phone, where Wendy's is like a social media team and a manager, and we were saying Domino's is like an IT department.
Yeah.
And it's like, no wonder they're getting better results.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny because often we talk about Wendy's kind of being,
Yeah.
you know, she's gone from being this pure, you know, Dave's daughter to this snarky teenager.
With the voice of Chris Pratt from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Like they actually said that.
Yeah, they've actually said that that's kind of who they model it after. So she's snarky. And I know Taco Bell had been doing it long before Wendy's started doing it and kind of roasting people and being cheeky with their responses to people. But here it is in the numbers, right? They're really, really kicking butt. And they're doing a good job. So I'm just looking down some of they've got some campaigns that this particular article points to. Domino's has led the pack on Instagram curiously, but they're focusing on a food porn strategy to stimulate consumer appetites with a constant stream of delicious looking pies.
Yes, you heard that. A food porn strategy.
That's true, eh?
I know, eh? That's such a weird strategy to be thinking
What
about.
kind of world do we
Yeah.
live in, really, people?
Basically, really good looking pictures of food.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know what food porn is.
I'm
I
just
like
helping
that.
them. Helping anyone who's listening to us who doesn't quite understand what we're talking about. There's no men or women involved in these pictures.
Well, yeah. Yes, you're right. Its top performing post for Domino's was an image of a dash hound, speaking of there's no people, on National Puppy Day, pointing to the potential for when brands share unrelated posts to boost follower engagement on social.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know, my goodness, 420 was not long ago.
Yeah.
Papa John's, we often talk about them. They had some kind of, pizza craving, smoke, marijuana supporting kind of messaging.
Which is funny because they are predominantly American company.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So, kind of hooking into those days, right? National Puppy Day or whatever. It's surprising. And I was surprised to read this, that Wendy's did have such low engagement on Facebook and Instagram, considering that their presence on Twitter is a big sensation, right?
maybe they've got one guy on Twitter and everybody else on all the other social media.
Yeah. And
he's friends with the Taco Bell guy.
Yeah. They have 2.4 million followers if we care about the number, but they have got a lot of publicity for being that mean girl on Twitter, which we've said already. And they slam their competitors with quips about, frozen meat and processed products. But they also use it for promotions. They're, talking to customers and trying to encourage them to engage. So Subway, we should say, because we've already mentioned them in the lead on the story, they were the worst performers in likes. Their engagement rates were more based on like corporate stuff, like a brochure-like aesthetic.
But it feels like that even when you get a sub, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty non-eventful environment when you go into a Subway, at least our Subways. So where do you go from here, right? First of all, if you're in the quick service food industry, I mean, you've got your parent companies taking care of you. But if you're not, it's probably worth following these accounts to see what's working and what's not, how often they're engaging with people and the way in which you're engaging. Not necessarily the tone, because you can get in trouble if you really don't know what you're doing with the tone. And if Wendy's is that mean girl, that might not be your brand. But the frequency and the authenticity, the voice, the consistency,
and look
those
at the
are things to
reactions
watch.
that they're getting.
Yeah.
You might think that something's hilarious, and then you look at the comments, and nobody else does.
Yeah.
And so definitely use the big brands as the testers before you jump in and try something. Like clearly the puppy worked on National Puppy Day.
Right.
So maybe have a puppy event and tweet about it or Instagram it.
Yeah.
Apparently that would probably work. But something else might not.
Yeah.
Down the same thread, Yeah. So
pay attention to what they're doing.
I think it's important to at least be on social media and responsive. I think that's number one. Like, I bet you if you were to look at the reactions, if you were to go through the comments, Taco Bell is responding.
Yeah.
They're
back and forth.
Back and forth. I bet you it's not a one-way street.
It's that one person who's on call 24 hours a day who gets paid handsomely.
Yes.
To just
say
do
funny things.
Nothing but tweet.
They did the one with the Men's Magazine, right? Dude, this is like legendary. Men's Magazine was like, just went to Taco Bell. I think I have a food baby. And like within minutes, Taco Bell was like, I want a paternity test.
Awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And like, you don't have to be that funny. Even just acknowledging people's post to you is all it takes
Yeah.
to build lifelong brand love.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't take much.
And I think the one thing is with all of these brands that every brand can learn from is that they have a very well defined voice,
Yeah.
right? If
Yep.
they're going to be cheeky, they're going to be cheeky. If they're going to be
Way, yeah.
pasty, like Subway, then
Well.
very corporate-like, then so be it. But I think we've learned that doesn't work. So it's that tone, it's that voice, it's how you're talking to your customers, the followers and fans.
And I personally think you should empower your staff to use your social media and train them how to, and then give them the free reign. I don't have the story. I should have found the story, but I remember there was one where at a clothing store, one of the staff members just started trying on clothes, taking pictures, and the clothing store's Instagram was going through the roof. Like, it was working really well.
Mm-hmm.
And so simple things like that, empowering your staff and training them how to use social media, could take
Pay
the
off.
responsibility off of you, but really pay off. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Is it time to talk about our favorite things?
Yep.
Yay! For those of you who are just joining us for the very first time, welcome. But also our favorite things is a time when Brendan and I kind of talk about products, services, apps, things that we enjoy working with, our tools of the trade, if you will, to allow us to do the work that we do. And today we are talking about IFTTT.
You said that right. That's good. That's not a reading mistake. IFTTT.
IFTTT.
It's an acronym too, I guess.
Yeah, it is. So back in programming days, right? If that, then this is what it stands for. They did shorten, they abbreviated their name a few years ago now just to if. They launched a mobile app and they just thought it was better. But if for those of you who learned some of the original code, if, and, or, NAND, that kind of stuff. So basically, you set up a bunch of, they call them recipes. I think they still call them
Applets.
recipes.
They call them applets.
Now. They used to be called recipes.
Yeah.
I'm a little old school with these guys. And you can create this applet that basically says, if my phone senses me pulling into my driveway, then turn on my automated hue light outside to green. So that would be the then this.
And it would do that.
Yeah, and it would do that. You can plug in all kinds of different, like the API and the SDK. The SDK and the API are all talking to the ABCs, and we get a little bit of XYZ. No?
Basically, like really what I see IFT is like it's an opportunity for companies who've got like an online service or an IoT device.
Internet of Things, IoT.
The translator in the background, the IoT device, to basically like give, like to open up certain parts of their service. So the one that you just talked about, if you've got the app installed on your phone, you can give it access to your GPS, or you can give it access to your ringer, or to, there's a few things you can give it access to. And then that can be used as an if, that can be used as a this or a then, right? On both sides. And then with the Hue light, so Philips Hughes has opened up their platform to IFT, and now you can turn on and off lights based on something else. So in the example you gave was, if I'm home, you've told it where home is, turn on the light.
Yep.
And this
so how do we use it as an agency? I think I know how I use it. When it comes to social media management, I can tell it to give me particular, like we get so many, because the accounts that we're doing, I have to turn off notifications on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram because it's just insane. The number of accounts that our hands are in, like I would be getting notifications all the time and constantly clearing them off. And I hate seeing that red dot that I have a notification. I'm that person. So I turn off those notifications, but I can tell if to send me a text message or send me an email if a particular thing happens on Twitter or if a particular thing happens on Facebook. And that allows me to do the monitoring without having to see every time my mother-in-law likes something on my Facebook page. So that's one way I use it. I mean, individuals can use it in terms of, if I change my Facebook profile page, then also update my profile picture, then automatically do the same picture on my Twitter. So you can link accounts together.
I have one set up that if someone tags me in a photo on Facebook, it saves it to my Dropbox.
Yep. Yeah. I also will use it for record keeping for our clients. If a tweet is posted to Twitter, then save that tweet content to a Google spreadsheet. So then at the end of the month, we have like truly a full record of every single
searchable.
Yeah,
Did
searchable.
we say that? Did we not say that?
Yeah, every searchable piece of content
Yeah.
that we've put out for that particular client.
I've started to use it with Google Home. So both Amazon Alexa and Google Home have opened up their platforms to IFT.
Their API SDK.
And so literally you can set up custom commands for the Google Home to do anything IFT can do. So let's say I want to add a card to Trello. I can say, hey, Google, add a card to Trello. I'm so sorry.
I'm like, my eyes got so big, Brett. I'm like, what have you done?
I know, everybody's
just
phone.
Turned on everybody's phone.
But you don't have that set up, so it's okay because Google can't do that. So, but if you had IFT set up to do that, and I've actually done this for text messaging from the Google Home Minis, and so this is how they suggest it, because you can have it set up on your phone. You can send a text message from your Google Home, but it has to be set up for a single person. Like you have to set it up for each person.
Yeah.
And I could tweet from my Google Home if I wanted to,
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. So it's really cool. The sky is really the limit with this. There's so many
And you don't have to be a
applets.
genius. I need to say, like to put these together, it basically, walks you through the 3 ingredients that you need. You link your accounts.
Yep.
And there's also a bunch of applets that are already there. Like if I want to do something with Twitter, for example, I would search Twitter and it would say, like, here's a bunch of applets already in place. And you can just copy that and link your accounts to it and make a couple of tweaks to it, and you're golden.
I have a really interesting one, I guess. When dusk hits, it's like when the sun sets but it's not dark yet, it sends me a notification to go feed the calf.
Okay.
Because I have a calf in the barn.
Okay.
But I do it like that dusk changes when dusk is. Like, so that's an example of like kind of a smart notification. It doesn't happen at the same time every day. It happens at dusk every day.
Yeah, I can get a text message whenever it's about to rain to remind me to bring my umbrella.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we love it. We use it.
Yeah, it's a fun tool. That's
I use
one of
it
our
with
favorite
Trello
things.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. We have another show. 32. 31. I don't know what episode it was.
32.
32. Okay.
32.
30.
Oh, boy.
30 something.
And that is the show. So
that is the show.
for the Marketing Podcast, where do you follow us? Facebook and Twitter at the Marketing Podcast.
At the Marketing Podcast. Twitter is the Marketing Pod _. Marketing Pod _.
And the website is themarketingpodcast.ca.
Yeah.
So for the Marketing Podcast, I'm Brendan Quigley.
And I'm Heather Watson. Thanks for listening.